Live. Hey guys. Hey Ian, Melissa. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Yeah, happy almost end of the year day. I think I put out something like 3 weeks to the end of the year. It's like, how did that happen? Time is moving too
Oh,
fast.
I know it's hard to believe. And welcome, community. Thank you for joining. Um, how are you? How are you, Melissa? How's December going? Holidays, everything.
Yeah, exciting. Really great customer meetings lately. I had one yesterday, just without naming the customer. And the first thing he said to me is, I would be happy if I never had to send another engagement survey ever again. What do we do instead? And I said, I love you.
Fantastic. There is progress, Melissa. There is progress. That's awesome.
There is. Is there going to be a time when we talk about the engagement survey and it's going to feel like we're talking about blackberries?
Yes, undoubtedly, Dan. That time is not very far away.
No, I know. It's around the corner.
But Gen Z would say, why would you talk about a fruit when you're talking about the engagement survey? Because they would have no idea.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this conversation today. I first want to start off by saying I just want to thank you both. We've been doing this show for about 6 months, and just I love the conversations we've been having, and just appreciate your friendship more than anything. Partnership with Vizier and Medallia, partnership with you both. I learned so much from you both, and so I just want to start by kind of giving holiday cheer and a big thank you to you, to both of you, and a perfect topic to talk about 2024 and the things we need to be thinking about.
Oh, thanks, Dan. The conversations are always enlightening. It's a fun process.
Thank you, Dan. We should all be drinking champagne.
No, we've all been so. Just a note to our audience, we've all been so busy end of the year, like everybody. It's sort of it's always until mid-December. It feels like it's a little chaotic, but that's okay. So we really haven't had time to prep. Other than Ian, so Ian put together a little bit of an outline, but we haven't. So you're getting like unfiltered. And I like that because that's the whole point of this conversation. And today's unfiltered, completely unfiltered. So our topic today is HR in 2024. And as Ian said, we believe 2024 will demand change like no other year before. And I know you're saying, Dan, we can say that every year. Maybe we can, but honestly, 2024, and we'll talk about why, has so much that is going to require a refreshed mindset, a refocused mindset, reimagining. It's going to be tough. It's going to be turbulent for a handful of obvious reasons. And we need to prepare for it. So that is the goal of today's conversation. So Ian, I want to turn the mic to you for a moment. This was a topic idea you brought to the group, and just, what's on your mind? What do you hope to get out of this conversation today?
Well, what's on my mind is always trying to read the tea leaves of where businesses and the people side of business is going forward. And what struck me from my reflections on that is just the turbulent nature of the year ahead, and the extreme nature of the forces of change that are in play, both economic and technological and human. So what I hope to get out of today is to maybe rattle a few people's brains, just how much they need to throw away their assumptions, and how much they need to throw away the kind of patterns of the past, not a blank page is the wrong thing, but there's this thing called zero-based pricing where you don't just take the budget you had last year and tweak it. You actually start with a blank budget and you build up from scratch on how you're going to make things happen. And if I was to say anything, like 2024 is a year to do sort of zero-based HR strategy or zero-based people strategy. It isn't a tweak on what we've been doing. It's a rethink of how we do things.
Yeah, and I find that so empowering. And both of you were talking about how next year is likely to be turbulent or tumultuous, and what an opportunity, like what freedom that brings us, an excuse to let go of things. It can be a time where we say, I can't believe this is happening to me, or we can say, I can't believe this is happening for me. What an opportunity to just totally change, just rethink, drop things that aren't working, and try something new. Like we were able to do that during COVID when we were all home because we said everything was different. What if every year we just say it's different and this is our excuse to just try something new?
I'm going to have to steal that quote from you around, it's happening for me, right? It's not happening to me. Sorry, I should learn how to mute my phone. And I think that is such a great mindset and way to think about it, because change is really important, and how we approach it, how we dive into it, how we get comfortable with it. This is something that's happening for us, right? It's necessary. So I just love what you just said, Melissa. So spot on. It is an opportunity. It's the optimist coming out, and I love that. So, Ian, you kind of kicked off by quickly categorizing some of the larger categories of change, and certainly, the three big buckets we have are kind of the economic changes to be that are on us, the political changes that are going to be affecting us, and technology, right? I mean, the rapid rise of AI and just the technological advances that are happening. So, why don't we, dig into those and really think about the forces that are driving change. And I would love to start with you, Melissa. When you think about 2024 across those categories, where do you see will be the most turbulent opportunity of change that we need to pay attention to, we need to prioritize, build strategy around, and strap in?
So I bet Ian's dying to answer this one. So I'm going to be really short and let him take it.
That's why I went with
Or Ian.
Ian has to wait patiently.
Ian's got great stuff on this, so I'm going to be really brief. So what comes up for me, right, is all the changes in the economy and the market, right? This long time we've all been fearing this recession. I think this is giving an opportunity for us, not something happening to us, to really take this opportunity to connect HR and the business, for HR to be a part of the business, HR to be solving business problems. No time better than now, and it's going to come up again. It's going to keep coming up. And I think, that's one of the things that Ian and I have discussed before. I'd love to hear more from him on it if he wants to take this one on. But that's what's happening for us in 2024.
Yeah, so I would, building on what Melissa's saying, I would say that the key piece that people are potentially, as they often do, but misinterpreting, is the effect of people on business. Whenever people hear recession, certain business leaders assume that everybody just sticks to their job, gets their head down, and works as hard as possible, and that we can forget about looking after people because they're all just going to be compliant and focused. The demographics, the data around the labor market indicate that that's not as likely to happen as it has in the past. Everybody's kind of going like, thank goodness, turnover rates are back to where they were pre-pandemic. Well, 2019 was at the top of a 10-year peak. So, what we experienced through the pandemic was extremis, but 2019 was still peak turnover rates. That's still a high volume of people leaving. That's still a high throughput of people in your business. So kind of saying, thank goodness we're back to a peak, is to misinterpret exactly what that means. So, this, I saw it recently labeled the Great Stay. It's like, no, the Great Stay is when we've got an 8% unemployment rate and we've got 5% turnover rates, but rough numbers. So I think there's just a misunderstanding or misapprehension around people are still going to be incredibly crucial in navigating this change. Because the other piece, just using a specific example, everybody's been talking about how valuable ChatGPT is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's been commenting on how that actually that value is based on the 700 people who made it. Because from the recent experiences with the CEO there, when the 700 employees said, if he doesn't come back, we are off, that completely changed the governance structure of that business.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not an indication of the power of the people, because nobody said, oh, we don't need those 700 people, we've got the technology, we're fine. Nobody said that. They all said, without these 700 people, we don't have a multi-billion-dollar business. And so again, it doesn't become that everybody's equally important. That's a mind frame that's never really worked inside business. It is that there are key players in key places where you're going to need to really double down on understanding how do we build performance through those people. And that's just not gone away. So people haven't become irrelevant. Slashing HR budgets is actually a really bad idea. There's a whole bunch of repercussions where we need to understand that defending the investment in people and defending in what that does for the business is crucial through 2024.
I agree. And if it's okay, Dan, if I jump in, and I think we have this opportunity to show that connection. I think often executives would believe it, but they really need to see it, and they need to see it on a regular basis. So they're recognizing these key jobs, the impact they have. They recognize the customer complaints they're having today came from employee experience problems that our employees working as hard as they can with their heads down couldn't overcome, and the customer saw them. So we need to make that connection with our data and analytics to make it crystal clear to the leaders that people are completely relevant to their ability to hit whatever their business objectives are.
Mm-hmm.
And the secondary point is, most of the solution to this for me is actually not to replace people with AI. It's actually to augment with people with AI. Like one of my favorite stories from this year of how has generative AI helped was a call center case where they understood the call patterns of the best people. They trained a bot to guide other service center agents on what to say. That elevated overall productivity by 15%. It made no difference to the best performers, but it brought the rest of the performers up to that level. That's the kind of impact you're going to need in your business, but you're not getting rid of people at that point. You're actually using technology to spread skill. So you need the skilled individuals. You need the other individuals with that skill. So none of this is, and there's a lot of rich human and HR components in actually activating that kind of lift. But if you went to your CEO and said, do you want to give up on a 15% performance lift? They're going to say, absolutely not. But achieving that is fundamentally a human problem.
Yeah. So with that, do we believe, I'll ask a very direct question, when we think about business performance, based on, you both, we all work with CHROs across the board, and CEOs and head of talent. Are we focused on trying to fix the wrong problem, right? So if we're focused purely on, if we equate efficiency to performance, or simply productivity equates to performance, I'll hold off on my answer. Those who know me probably know what my answer is on that. But let's talk about that, because number one, are we focused on the wrong problem? And if so, what do we do to start to shift back and really make sure we're positioning our organizations and our teams for a successful 2024?
I have a starter point of view on that, and I think the potential is there. Again, I think that's why if somebody can start with a zero-based mindset, they're more likely to guide themselves the right direction. So I'm seeing some of the capability that's being brought to market with generative AI. And one of the things that's being put out there is like the Gen AI will write a job description for you.
Yeah.
If you think that's exciting and where you should put your money, yes, it's a time saver. At the same time, like, how does your job description actually differentiate your business? An aside story: somebody's son had the GPT write their class essay. They got a C. And that's a pretty good example of how good GPTs are producing language. They come out as mediocre and average. So if you're happy to have fast, cheap, mediocre job descriptions, go ahead, like spend your money in that path. But really all you've done is automate a regular process. I don't think that moves the needle. I don't think it changes the game in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So whereas investments in informing, to Melissa's point, informing people like this set of talent has the capacity to be augmented. This set of talent has the capacity to really hurt us if it evaporates. Here are different ways in which we can move people. Instead of letting them go, we can move people through our business to continue adding value. Those are the outside-in business problem-focused investments that we should be making.
I had a roommate in college, and he used to always say, just a complete sidebar here, he used to always say, C's get degrees. and you know what? That's true. But is that good enough, right? I mean, to your point around ChatGPT, yeah, it doesn't get the job done. Yeah, I mean, but is it? And so really thinking about it as an augmentation to what people can do together and sort of an additional team member, or however you want to think about it. I mean, that is the way we have to leverage AI, right? Getting a degree that we can put on the wall, it just isn't good enough. That's not going to change things. That's not going to, to inspire greatness. Kind of allows you to get by. So anyway, I thought that was, when you said that, it reminded me of my roommate's wise advice. I actually kind of argued back saying, well, B's kind of rhymes with C's, so B's get degrees too. B's are a little better, but just me.
Yeah,
So Melissa, what when you think about the focus of CHROs, thinking about HR in 2024, building efficiency, productivity, high performance. I mean, we know people want to be a part of companies that are succeeding and growing and all of that. But are we getting it wrong? Are we focusing on the wrong things and the wrong problem?
Well, I'm going to have to go back to this 20-year-old wisdom of D's get degrees. Well, B's get the business, because you need at least 80%, right? That we usually have the 80% rule. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have to get 80% right. So if our AI is not getting us to 80%, we're not going to win the business.
Yeah.
But are we focusing on the right thing? I mean, I always think the focus is solving a business problem. Anytime you walk into a room and you hear the business leaders talking, right, there's all kinds of current issues that they're facing. We see even just their goals. What is it they have to hit? And that's what the whole team's aligned behind. And that's what HR and all of our solutions, whether it's AI or anything else, needs to be aligned behind. We have these great tools and we need to apply them to the right problem. And the right problem is always the business problem.
Yeah. So with that, it's a great transition to thinking about, you and I, well, all three of us talk about the importance of people first, human-centric workplaces. And I've gone on record, and we all probably have, in saying in some contexts that you cannot build a successful and impassioned and inspiring human-centric workplace without using and leveraging data and being informed by data. There's this misconception right? Sometimes that, well, we need to focus on just the people side of the business and we can just kind of go on instinct. Like, and my answer to that is absolutely wrong. It has to be informed by data. We can't be guessing, because if we guess, all we're going to do is fall back to the past, right? And our old approaches. So, so with that, we recently, I'll just quickly roll through kind of five things that we've, when we think about 2024 and some of our predictions, we talk about economic pressure, keeping worker costs and productivity in the crosshairs is key. Number two, we do believe politics is going to impact leadership, and trust is going to become even a larger concern than it already is, and well-being, right? Because well-being comes out of frustration, and we know that. AI, we've been talking about, and continuing to solve distributed team effectiveness, right? And we, again, there's a reason I'm going through this list. And finally, the talent dynamics will continue, and I know all three of us are passionate about this, continue to force attention back onto the individual needs, right? What does the individual need to be successful? And all of this, if you wrap it, requires data, right? To understand what's going on, to make changes, to make bold changes, so we don't go back to old approaches. So with that, how do we, and we've talked about this before, but it's even more important now than ever. How do we leverage data, making sure we're making data-driven decisions, so we don't fall back into the ways of the past as we head into 2024?
Go ahead, Ian.
Okay.
Okay, I can see it. I can see it.
Well, I mean, we've just got some great examples, Dan, where you need to start bringing in the output, what I call output data. Lots of people have talked about productivity. I tend to find the conversations are like productivity generically across a business is too high level. I mean, there's no one definition of productivity that works for everybody. So, if we're going to use this with the data, it's starting to bring in things like point of sale data. It's starting to bring in things like units produced or calls responded to, and actually starting to build up the profiles behind what happens on the team. How does that actually affect the work? And so you start to synthesize. There's I think one of the changes is to stop operating HR in silos in terms of like, well, we do this HR stuff and you do this kind of business stuff. It's like, no, it's all work. So connecting from our understanding of the churn or the flow of people inside the business, joiners, movers, leavers, to the compensation. So who's paid more, who's paid less, and what's the price of the work, into, well, what work is actually getting done. And starting to knock down some very specific questions around, does our ramp, does our kind of classic onboarding process actually get people ready to work? Could we streamline that, make it faster? Is some of the learning we're providing actually getting people ready, not just for their current job, for the next job, so that we can move people up inside? We know that's a cheaper, better, faster way to move talent. So I think there are some core questions which are all part of talent strategy, which can be better informed with the people dynamic combined with the business data, and focusing on specific populations where that's really, really vital for your business. Because you're not going to change everything about your business over the whole year. So it's really doubling down on like, which piece of our business do we need to get right? To sustain our results through 2024.
And I mean, Ian's given so much there. I'll try to do two small additions. So one, measuring the productivity can be so hard. Ian's given some great examples and some populations where we can measure it, but I think arguably an easier measure is to use the customer experience, whether it's the score or the sentiment, right? There's a lot of richness in that data. Yes. And it's often easier to get, though I love productivity, and that would be my first choice, but customer experience data would be my second, and being able to look at what things in the employee experience are impacting customer experience. Love Ian's example of onboarding. If employees aren't ready to serve customers, we're going to see that right away from the customers, and there's going to be quick complaints, and we're going to be able to relate that back to onboarding. The other thing I'll mention is when we talk about using data and data powering the ability to have a good workplace, so often people think the more data, the better. And I definitely recommend against that. I want to figure out what is the least amount of data I can give to a leader or a manager to help them make a better informed decision. So we'll go back to the 80%, the B. We only need to make it better, much better than they would make it without the information, but it doesn't need to be perfect because just like AI, we want the human decision-making element to come into play. So now they have better information on which to base their decision. So as little data as possible to get them what they need to make a better decision.
Yeah, I love that. And Melissa, a question for you. So we started off a little bit ago saying, engagement surveys will become obsolete eventually and become like the BlackBerry. So I just watched that movie, actually, BlackBerry. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's really fascinating.